Hello everyone, welcome back to Olympic Foil. Today I'm going to be doing an interview with the fencing icon, CyrusofChaos. We're going to be talking about social media, promoting fencing, growing your brand as a fencer, and a lot of other topics similar to that. Thanks for coming on, Andrew.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So the first question that I thought we could talk about was the fencing live streams. This is something you've talked about in the past. Sometimes the
Repeatedly.
camera work is not so great.
Yeah, that's true. There's two big problems with the live streams and the way that they're filmed. One is the fact that they are constantly cutting away from the actual action and showing like in favor of like showing a replay or something. So in Saber especially, that's a problem because the beginning of the touch is so important. And I understand that like sometimes in other sports they'll show a replay instead of like, I don't know, the very beginning of a tennis point or something, but
Yeah.
those points are not as important, and that still barely ever happens. But in fencing, it seems like it happens all the time. And the second problem is, for example, in the live stream in Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
the camera angle was not like dead center. It was like I don't know, under and up or
From the
something.
side.
Yeah, which was really weird because the major factor in fencing is the space between the athletes. And when you look at that from the side, you don't get a good perspective on like what the distance is, and that's extremely important. So those artistic shots are fine for replays, but when you're just watching the fencing, it has to be dead center. And
Mm.
there's really not much room for creativity in that respect because like that's just objectively the best way to watch fencing. Otherwise, the referee would be, off to the side somewhere as well. So
Perhaps, does this sound legit to you? It's sort of a problem of trying to make a highlight and a live stream in the same production.
yeah, I think they want to make the fencing appear interesting to people, so they choose these angles that are interesting. But you can, especially if you're in a place like Orleans or at the Olympics and you have access to those multiple angles, there's nothing wrong with using them. But for the actual live component, you need to just stick to filming from straight in front. And then from a replay or something to show a better angle, you can, like a better angle of the hit, you can show something from the side or from above. But to actually watch the fencing like that as it happens is not a good idea.
Okay. Um, and so, further on the topic of the live streams, which is the first thing we're going to be covering, the commentary sometimes is focused on beginners. I see people occasionally complain about that, where it's like, for those who are new to fencing, foil is a point weapon, etc., etc. Do you think that this is the most effective way to run the live streams, or do you feel that could be done differently?
So obviously it's not the most effective way, but the problem with commentating is you need to appeal to a wide array of skill and experience levels. And so you obviously need to appeal to beginners or people who know nothing about fencing because if you don't, they're not going to stay on the stream. But you also need to appeal to the high level athletes who are watching. And so there's a balance that you have to strike. And right now, I think the balance is way, way over in like the beginner side. Like they only talk about fencing in the most shallow way. And, I have no problem with them introducing each bout by saying like sabers are right of way weapon. They score by the rules of taking turns and the referee gives points. There's no problem for me with doing that.
Okay.
But the fact that it never goes beyond that unless there's a pretty advanced fencer in the box with them is a problem to me. I'm a big fan of Super Smash Bros. Melee. I used to play that game competitively and go to tournaments and stuff, and I still follow it. And I think the commentators there do a fantastic job of catering to both people who are really inexperienced and people who are very, very strong. Like they'll freak out about something and talk about how advanced it is, and then they'll say for anyone who just tuning in, like this specific technique was used in that situation, and it gives you like the following advantages over this other one, which is something that every advanced player knows, but like the beginners don't know. And I personally, as an advanced player, don't find that annoying because it's catered to like if this is the spectrum, it's like in this part of the spectrum, most of their commentary, and then they make comments to people on the left side of the spectrum too. So that's totally fine. And the way that they do it, I think, is fantastic.
They strike the
So
balance.
Yeah, so we just have to have a better balance that's not like literally right here. Like you should be on this side of the scale with like a little bit over here as well. So
Could I ask, in your experience, what was the best done commentary for fencing that you can remember?
think of a specific tournament that it was really well done at, but
Okay.
pretty much anytime they have a guest speaker in there
Hmm.
and the person feels confident enough to talk about things, the commentary is going to be fantastic. So usually they have a top level fencer from the tournament, and that's great.
Hmm.
In Orleans, they had Mario Zagunis, who was not fencing in the tournament, as the commentator, and she did a fantastic job. At the Olympics, Ibtihaj Mohammed wasn't fencing, but she was the commentator, and she's a lot of high level experience. She did a great job. I remember one time Peter Wagner was done with the tournament, and they asked him to come do commentary, and he did a great job. So pretty much,
Hmm.
as long as somebody like that is in the box, that I think is really good. I understand because of COVID, it's been more difficult to do things like that, but I really think that having someone like that is essential to the commentary being, more than subpar.
And then I agree with, by the way, some of the favorite commentaries I've seen have been like Bon, where they brought in coaches, or when they brought in Cruz or Imbeden to commentate, has been great.
Yeah, yeah.
The final one, a personal grievance of mine, is the fact that the Cairo World Cup, Men's Foil World Cup, was not streamed, or is not available anywhere. And
Mhm.
the reason that this is very annoying is because some of the stuff in there was crazy. Yavador beat Macialis 15-3. Would love to see footage of that. And even more incredibly, there was an actual head-to-head playoff between the Hong Kong and Korean men's foil teams for Olympic qualification. No footage.
Additionally, there was a Sabre World Cup there shortly before that, and that was not recorded either. I actually reached out to the Egyptian Federation, and the person who did the recording wouldn't identify himself or talk to me, but he told me that he had all the footage and that if I wanted it, he would request $20,000 from me for it. And I was like, that is outrageous that you are willing to hurt the sport in order to, just make a quick buck. The really crazy thing is, because I knew how important this was, I was actually considering, I don't know, starting a fundraiser or something to get that. But if they're willing to do that, there's no guarantee they would actually give me the footage afterwards. So I don't know. I was really upset about that. I talked
That's
to
a crazy fucking story.
I talked to a whole bunch of people at the top level of like the Egyptian Federation. I talked to Ala Eldin El Sayed to try to get the footage. I talked to Ziad Al Sisi. Like, none of them could find access to that footage. And as a foil and a saber fencer who are both going to the Olympics, they were obviously motivated to get it. And
Yeah.
that footage just can't be found. So
Wow.
I don't know what happened, but
I
that was
didn't
not acceptable.
hear that before. That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen again. Sorry, I thought that was just an FIE issue, but that's a crazy story.
It was not an FIE issue.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
That's
not
good,
their fault.
actually.
Yeah.
Let me just move on to then the second topic, storytelling in fencing. So this is sort of the thing about the Cairo World Cup as well. Hong Kong versus Korea playing off is a great story for Olympic qualification. And in your experience, you've been running CyrusofChaos for over 10 years. You know what you're doing. What's the best way that we can tell like narratives and stories in fencing to promote the sport?
I think that people being interested in athletes is not something that's new to fencing at all. But we don't have anyone who's like talking about them off the strip. So I think a really good example of this is the Greek fencer who just won the Orleans World Cup. Her name is Despina Georgiadou, and she, the one tournament before this, like since COVID, she tested positive for COVID and was basically stuck in a hotel room for a month. She started training again shortly after that, but everything was shut down in Greece, so she had to move to France to train. When she got there, shortly after that, she broke her leg. So was out for like, I think 8 weeks. And then when she got back from that, like at the Athens World Cup, she was supposed to be in the top 16 in the world, but there was just some kind of clerical error and she was not. And so After all of that, she ended up winning the World Cup. I think that's a really cool story. And
Incredible.
yeah, the only reason I was able to even hear that story in the first place was because she and I are fairly close. And I decided like it would be really cool to talk to her about this and do an interview. And I put that interview up online. But I don't think this is something that the FIE or the USFA does a very good job of highlighting like interesting things about the athletes, talking about their background stories after the fact or before the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this case, like I remember that the FIE posted a post-match interview with Despina, and it ended up, I think it was like a minute and a half long, and it was just like, how do you feel about this? And she's like, it was great. And like, that was the whole interview. Yeah, that's really substantial. Good job. So I think you need to do more in-depth things to get more interest in the fencing. And then beforehand, there's things you could do as well. Like you said, Korea and Hong Kong were fighting for an Olympic spot. And I think that's because they were both trying to be the top one in the Asian zone, right?
Probably.
Yeah, the qualification
sure.
is so confusing, and I wasn't paying attention to it for every single weapon. But it would have been interesting if they had like released a video beforehand saying like, oh, these two teams are gonna fight for like the last qualification spot in the Asian zone, and they're in the same bracket, and if they fence each other, like that would be amazing because it will be like the winner of that going to the Olympics, and just to draw people's attention to stuff like that would be interesting.
And the audience is there, especially for Hong Kong and Korea.
Oh yeah,
two of the
sure.
most where fencing is most popular countries.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah, hopefully it's just a matter of getting it done.
Yeah, it's something that people need to realize. It's something that the people in the organizations need to realize that the people who are watching fencing want to see, and then they actually have to go out and do it well. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people are invested in the individual fencers. A lot of people have big followings, which is leading me on to the next question I wanted to talk about, which is how elite fencers, like really top tier fencers, can grow their social media presence best, in your opinion. And as an example for this, I wanted to maybe bring up Shikine Takahiro. He's world ranked number 5 and has but only 2,000 Instagram followers. Where would you start from, say, that spot, that place?
So I think that everybody. So in order to be successful on Instagram, you need, or any social media really,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do something that sets you apart from the other people in that like niche, I guess. So if you're a fencer, like why should I follow you specifically over all the other people who are posting like fencing accounts? Do you have an interesting personality? Do you have an interesting style? Are you very successful? Like, what is it about you that makes you interesting? And then play that up a lot. So Heinzer does a really good job of this, I think, where he does his Heinzer stuff, and it's not just on strip. And for those of you who don't know who Max Heinzer is, he kind of fences epee like a crazy person, and I mean that in the best possible way. Like instead of just being so stuck in distance and like just measuring with the other person, and like camping a lot, he runs in and out, he jumps up and down, he holds his epee behind him to try to like draw people in. He'll like crouch on the ground and like mimic the other fencer, and just it's really fun to watch. And in practice, he does that stuff as well. And his Instagram, he shows a lot of videos of himself doing his like crazy training sessions, and those things are fun to watch.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah. So for him, that's a really easy one. I don't know Shikine very well as a person, but as you said, he's 5th in the world, so I would play that up a little bit, and then also just focus on the things about him that make him different and interesting. So
different, yeah, differentiate yourself. That's an interesting point, because I really believe that it could be a huge benefit for top level fencers to have a strong foundation for the social media, especially after I saw Chung Kai-long won the Olympics, and his following increased tenfold. But
more than that.
More than that. Oh.
Oh yeah.
But like, if he had had no presence, then he wouldn't have been able to get this big benefit, and I don't know, a Nike sponsorship, and et cetera, et cetera.
That's not
So
exactly
easily.
true. I mean, for sure that, yeah. So Kim Jong-won, for example, I think he only made his Instagram account recently, like a few months before the Olympics. And I think it only had like a few hundred followers. And I'll get you a quick check on what it is now. But I think it's in the 30 or 40 thousands. And essentially that happened because he was doing a lot of TV appearances after his team won the Olympics. He has
Those were
30,000
great.
followers. Yeah. So, more than anything, if you can get exposure from something other than social media, your following will go up a lot. And that's what happened to Chung. Like, he won the Olympics. It was very, very well televised. Because as you said, Hong Kong is like a huge fencing country. And when he was in the finals of the Olympics, every single person in Hong Kong was watching him pretty much. Like, there were these really cool videos of like watch parties in malls where there's like gigantic, like 100 by 100 foot, like flat screen TV where he's being projected. And when he won the Olympics, like the whole mall just flipped out, which was really cool. And I remember like watching his numbers just go up from like 30,000 to like 300,000 within like the day, and then like peter off at like 400,000 a few weeks later. So
it was wild.
And yeah, like you said, the benefit of that is that it gives you, first of all, a platform to just talk to the people who like you and you like your fencing. And then also it gives you the ability to, because you have this ability to influence a bunch of people, it gets you sponsorships, which can help, you make a living, which is something
especially in
that
fencing.
hard to do in fencing. So yeah, that's all good for that. Those are the obvious upsides. I'm not sure there's too much of a downside. Whenever you're displaying yourself to a whole bunch of people, there are going to be situations where you make somebody unhappy. And I think that as long as you're not doing anything that's like intentionally offensive, or you're not doing anything in a way that is like being abrasive on purpose, those things shouldn't make a difference to you. But a lot of people are really nervous about like pissing off one person, for example. Like I remember,
I remember,
yeah, for sure. And that's not something specific to Instagram. That's like everywhere. I remember a few years ago, I posted a picture of someone who was wearing like a SpongeBob meme shirt. You know, the episode where SpongeBob and Squidward go to an art school, and Squidward is showing off his art to like this art collector, and he goes, "I call this one bold and brash." And the art critic's like, "More like belongs in the trash."
Right.
Just something stupid like that. But he was wearing that that painting on his sweatshirt, and I thought that was awesome. So I posted a picture of it, and I put a caption that was like, "Oh, raise your hand if you think this belongs in the trash," or something. And I got reported repeatedly for bullying, and my account got banned for a week. So, I mean, people are just like very sensitive about stuff like that. And yeah, exactly. It was a joke. Like he liked it. He reposted it. He thought it was funny. And then
dude.
I got banned for bullying. So but my point is, like, as long as you're not doing anything that is like hurtful on purpose, you're not going to have a problem with like one or two people doing something like that. So yeah, just be yourself, and, let your personality show through, I think, is the best advice I can give you.
Perhaps if we could talk specifically about your channel, then you have a knack for making viral highlight clips, and I've noticed a few of Slice of Saber's videos. Shout out to Slice of Saber, by the way, great channel.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
Videos going viral as well. A few examples are the 1000 IQ play video, where the joke is the saber fencer points at Luigi Tarantino's foot and then hits him when he looks. Samelli, sorry.
Okay.
My bad. And that has 1.3 million views. It's totally viral, and people just appreciate it. And you've managed to pull off similar stuff with like the coldest touch in fencing, and I can link all these videos below. But these things are not noticed in streams.
Yeah. No,
and they're not even really looked for. Like the Saber hit was buried in a placement stream, and the coldest touch was just about the bout itself has far fewer views than your clip. Uh, why are we letting all of these valuable videos drift away? Basically, is my question. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you need first to find the stuff, and there was a point in my career when I could honestly say I'd watched every single fencing video on the internet like at least 10 or 15 times. But that was before people were like streaming things and recording things. And that's one of the reasons I started recording, was because I wanted more footage to be able to improve, and I didn't have access to it. So I went and got it myself. Now there's so much footage that you'll never be able to watch all of it. And so the problem is the opposite problem. Like there's too much footage to look through to get all of those things. So when I am posting these highlights, a lot of the time you'll see that I'm giving credit to someone for finding it, because like it came from an obscure stream or like some random 32 bout in like a junior competition that I never would have watched otherwise.
Exactly.
So yeah, something that is kind of funny when someone submits a clip to me is like, oh, they send me something and they're like, oh, you've probably already seen this, but, and it's from like, I don't know, like I said, like an obscure round of a junior event. I'm like, no, I didn't already see that. Like, thank you for sending it to me. Like, please don't assume that I've already seen everything. Like, if you see something interesting or funny or noteworthy, please like send someone like me or someone like James about it, so that we can highlight it and tell everyone else about it too. So
it's so useful for the sport of fencing. Like that 1.3 million video has probably done more good than multiple senior level streamed competitions for beginners, or getting people at least interested in thinking about fencing, knowing it exists.
Sure. I mean, those streams only get like a couple hundred views at max. The viral clips are the ones that like really, I mean, not even the viral clips, but like just clipping something that's cool gets far more engagement than those things do. It's also much more palatable to watch something that's like 15 seconds than it is to watch something that looks like it's like 10 hours long. So
yeah, shorts. That's why Instagram has flourished so well, would you say, with fencing?
I really like Instagram a lot. Not just that, but I think that the fact that Instagram is such an interactive platform is really helpful, because someone can post something on their story and you can, just like react to it or send them a message about it, and suddenly you're like in the inbox of one of these top guys and like having a short conversation with them about it, which I think is really cool. It's one of the things that I like about this platform so much more than I like YouTube.
The community exists more.
Yeah, for sure. It's a much more tight-knit community.
Do you think there's any progress in this direction of not just putting up streams, but also doing a bit of before and after, or finding highlights for the FIE? Or is that a pipe dream many moons from now? Okay.
I don't see any progress at the moment, but they may not even be aware that it's a problem. Something that is more of a problem that would be really easy to do, but other people aren't doing it, so it makes me feel like I have to do it, is if you want to find footage from a stream, like if you want to go look at a specific bout from a World Cup, you pretty much need like a PhD in fencing and a master's in the internet to find that video, and most people don't have that. And so it's greatly to the benefit of the entire community to cut up those videos, because when you have a 10-hour stream, like I said, is prohibitive in terms of finding anything, then there's like 5 10-hour streams you have to look through in order to get the one bout that you want.
Yeah, it's not good SEO.
Is really important. And I only started cutting up videos like this from, I don't know, say like Italian championships last year, when actually a kid on Instagram messaged me and he was so excited that he won the cadet national championships last year. And he's like, can you put the video on your channel? Like right now it's just in a stream and I can't send it to my friends. And I was like, that's a great idea. Like, why wouldn't I want to do that?
Yeah.
It made him really happy. He can send it to his friends, he can send it to his family, and not have to like include a link or like, oh, this is how you find it. Just like, here's the link. Like, you can watch me win championships now. So that to me was really
And
cool because like it made him
no one else
happy.
is
It
doing it,
helps.
just like you
Yeah,
said.
yeah, it made him happy. It helps promote the sport. It gets me some views. So it's just all upside. And I mean, if the federations would actually cut up their videos and upload them, then instead of getting like 300 or 400 views per stream, they would get like, 50 or 60 views per video. And if you're uploading 60 or 70 videos, that's a gigantic swing. And then people can, share them with the people that they want to watch them. So.
Hmm. That and this brings me to sort of the whole reason why it's important that it be palatable. Fencing videos be findable, watchable, enjoyable, and not long stretches of blank piece followed by a short bout and then etc. Beginners. When I teach beginners, half the time after a few weeks, they're coming up to me talking about CyrusofChaos fencing highlights on Instagram. Oh, they're so cool. They love it. They always want to try something. And I
That's
think it
cute.
really improves, yeah, it really improves retention and how much people like the sport and stick with the sport when it's not so stuffy and they can see that there's a community and they the highlight clips make them excited about fencing
Yeah.
themselves.
I always encourage my students to get an Instagram account and follow the top guys, follow my page so they can see what the top guys are doing to train. They can see some highlights from me and from other highlight people. And then, that, as you said, it just makes them more excited about the sport. They want to continue when they're following athletes. They want to continue and like try stuff when they see someone do something really cool. So yeah, I think that's really important as well.
And there are a lot of cool hits out there.
Yeah.
There are some talented fencers. Um, yeah, then I think so. The FIE they put their beginner efforts into the live streams, making the commentary beginner focused and so on. But the real results lie in, I think, the social media highlights that kind of area for beginners.
Totally.
Do you have any more comments on the promotion side of fencing or marketing, that kind of thing? I think I've run out of questions.
I mean, to be very clear, I don't think the FIE is doing a bad job.
Me
They
neither.
do some things that I think are interesting, like they will show you like the coin challenge with some of the top Russian fencers, and those guys are like joking around and competing with each other to try to knock a coin off of, like a platform or something. And those videos are cute, but there's more that can be done for sure. And I will if I have to, but I don't always want to be the only one who's doing that. So that would be my main comment.
Great. Thanks for answering all those questions. I've always been very curious what your perspective on that was,
Yeah,
having been doing this for so long. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.